Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS. Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Two weeks after we raced at a virtual Virginia International Raceway and just a few days removed from some here tonight challenging for a national championship at the place Paul Newman called Heaven on Earth, we head a few hours north up I-81 to my version of heaven, a narrow circuit that may not have ever hosted a Grand Prix or a national championship, but in its glory days saw Trans Am and Can-Am navigate its 2 miles and 10 turns. It's seen its share of amateur racing luminaries such as national champions Randy Canfield, Robbie Hines, Chip Herr, and Rich Roman attack the 100+ mile-per-hour chute, and it's given others such as 7-time NASCAR champion Jimmy Johnson and Tom Cruise fits. This week we head just outside of Washington, D.C. to Summit Point Raceway, and it's season number 10 of the Ray Esports Racing League presented by Grassroots Motorsports Magazine, Common Gear, and Grass Paddock Motorsports here on Apex Racing TV. I'm Greg Ginsberg, and we've got Ron Mons joining me in the announce booth this season, along with Josh Wilkie in the virtual production trailer, bringing you all the great views of tonight's action. And for those of you joining us for the very first time, we've got 4 classes, Spec Racer Ford and Spec Miata, as well as 2 touring classes featuring the Volkswagen Jetta TDI Cup car in one and the Toyota GR86 Cup car in the other. And Each class will race 6 times over the course of our 9-week season. And so it's week number 3, and we've got two 20-minute sprint races on tap for you. First up will be those touring car racers with their second race of this young season, and then we're going to turn things over to the Spec Racer 4 drivers, and that will be their second race of the season as well. And if you're a Spec Miata aficionado, rest assured they're going to be back next week. And so, good evening, Ron, and welcome to my home away from home, Summit Point Raceway.
Well, it's happy to be back here with the Ray Esports series. I unfortunately haven't gotten the opportunity to visit this track yet. It's, I believe, about 3.5 hours or maybe even more away from my house here in Philadelphia.
So it's a bit of you haven't come down.
Yeah, it's a bit of a long haul for me, so maybe in a few weeks' time when I finally get my own car, I might be able to take the trip here in the not-too-distant future. But Summit Point is a fantastic motorsports facility. It's one of the oldest in America. It still has that old grassroots feel. It has had some safety modifications and just some general upgrades. You know, the Jefferson circuit that many that have run on iRacing for years will be familiar with. It's a staple of Rookie to C-Class races. That's actually been extended in the past few years. So this facility has had multiple upgrades as of late, but still has that old grassroots feel. And even here with this track, I feel like it will be a very good track for these drivers. Has that old school feel, has a it has old school vibes to it, and I feel like it'll give these drivers a great track to navigate tonight.
It does, Ron. And Summit Point Raceway, not only has the Jefferson circuit been extended since the track was first scanned and brought into the iRacing platform in 2007, but we now have the Washington circuit and the Shenandoah circuit at what is now known as Summit Point Motorsports Park. But the track that everybody always thinks of is this 2-mile, 10-turn quintessential club track that has excellent flow. It is very difficult. Unfortunately, we're not going to have Morgan Burkhardt's track guide here tonight, but we can tell you that the 3/4 of a mile, actually about close to a half a mile, front straight that leads into a very heavy braking zone at turn 1 and turn 2, somewhat of a horseshoe turn, leads into a real gut check corner that for these touring cars, especially the Volkswagen Jettas, is going to require the ability to gingerly use the brakes and set the nose. That's turn number 3, and then, as I mentioned in the open, come down the chute through, that is turn number 4. And with these cars, probably close to 115, 120 miles an hour, fastest apex speed on the course. And then, as you can, we see the drivers coming out of turn 10, but then we hit that talent section of the course, the carousel area from turn 5, where you have to slam on the brakes after that chute. And then really it's a question of flow and easily feeding in the throttle to bring you out and up the hill towards turn number 10. But let's do this, as we're now about 10 minutes, almost 10 minutes into qualifying. We're going to quickly take a look where we stand. As I mentioned, this is the second race of the season for the GR86s. They opened up and had their first race in our debut for season number 10 at Watkins Glen International. And let's take a look at where we stand. Pardon me, I take that back. They actually raced 2 weeks ago at VIR, where Beans Forster and the Toyota GR86s took the win, and he leads the point standings now with 25 points. Caleb Patre finished second, Kyle Robertson third, Mike Snow and Josh Justice rounding out the top 5 in the GR86 Cup cars. And then in the Jettas, in those Jettas, Morgan Burkhardt, who we'll talk about a little bit more this evening, I'm sure, took the win with Skip Rock Jr., a Spec Miata racer in real life, finishing second. Then Seth Spolman, Miles Crabb, and Trenton Kramer, who just had, I think, the race of his rookie life at the National Championship runoffs at VIR just this past week. He finished in 5th. His teammate in real life, Frank Schwartz from Paddock Motosports, finishing 6th. All right, so Ron, let's take a look and see where we are currently in qualifying.
Yeah, looking over the SDK graphics that you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, one thing that is grabbing my attention right now is the split between the fastest lap of the Jettas and the fastest lap of the GR86s. Something that we saw 2 weeks ago at VIR was that the gap between those two was fairly close, all things considered. They were pretty matched pace-wise, but here at this very tight and technical old-school track, the gap is pretty big right now. Right now, Patry at the other pole in the other T3 category, he's at a 120.1, and meanwhile Spoolman on pole currently in the other T4 category, he's at 122.1. So right now about 2 seconds, over 2 seconds actually, separating the other two categories. So that is something very interesting at this early stage of qualifying.
Indeed, and I think where most of the time is being lost is right in this section here where we're watching Megan Overstreet in the number 044 Jetta. Very twisty and turning version or portion of the course. What those of us who run this course regularly actually call the longest straightaway at Summit Point is, again, as you come out of the chute, heavy on the braking into turn 5, and it's really a challenge. You need to get a lot of rotation out of the car, something that Jetta just is not very good at. It's got a lot of straight line handling, a lot of straight line speed, but that is definitely somewhere that the Toyotas do excel just a little bit more here as again we're working our way and almost done with qualifying. And you know what, Ron, let's do this. We've got him sitting here in the booth and he's waiting. I want to bring in, and he'll likely be sitting in with us during the race as well. I want to bring in Stevie Ray, the Ray in Ray Esports Racing, who I had the pleasure of meeting up with this past weekend at Virginia International Raceway. And I know he wanted to talk a little bit about that, and also the large contingent of racers that we have in the Ray Esports Racing League, who really shined bright this past week at the SCCA's National Championship runoffs. So, Stevie Ray, welcome aboard.
Hi, Greg. Good evening.
All right. So, I guess first off, let's start off. Stevie Ray came into Virginia International Raceway, and we had a big meetup, big party at the runoffs on Wednesday evening. And I think you were working with Frank Schwartz from Paddock Motosports, correct?
Yeah, he had a part of a dessert, part of a party right with the New England region, and just the whole corner of the area there was lit up with people from all over, and a lot of our virtual racers there, and meeting face to face for the first time, and it was an awesome evening.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, we had, we had even people that drive regularly in the Ray Esports Racing League were here or were at VIR for the runoffs, even as spectators. We have many drivers that competed, but for example, I'm looking right now as he is your provisional pole sitter. Pardon me, in the GR86 Cup cars, in the T3 cars. Beans Forsters out of North Carolina brought the whole family up, and Beans just turned his fastest lap of a 120.03, and I don't know if we can move over to him there, Josh. We can move over to Beans. There we go. As he's working his way up the hill, we'll see if he can improve upon that in just a moment. There's Beans in the yellow and blue car. He brought the whole family up to watch, primarily I think to watch Morgan Burkhardt, and again we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment as Forster goes off track. We had Andrew Wozencroft come out this week as well, as he's out on the West Coast, and just so many racers that came to show support for their fellow Ray Sports drivers.
Yeah, Jim Brewster, Andrew Love, Skip Brock Jr., and the real Skip Brock, as he introduced himself to me, was
yes.
was there. He wasn't running that weekend, but he was still there.
Yeah, it was a really very good time, and a couple, again, we got a nice group picture over by the Michelin Man, as well as the checkered flag is out on qualifying, and we'll run down the starting order here in just a few moments. What would you say the atmosphere at Virginia International Raceway was like this week, Stevie?
I kept more of a family grassroots SCCA kind of feel, a lot more so than what Indy did a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that probably owes to the the size of the event. Indianapolis bringing almost 1,000 drivers to the event. A little bit lower numbers than that
Yeah.
at Virginia International Raceway, but I think that facility brings that kind of vibe also, and it's a lot of the lush green trees and the landscaping and everything else there. It has a very different feel than something like an Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous facility, and the families and everybody that was there, it was just a really fun, memorable event.
Yeah, indeed. All right, so Stevie, tell you what, let's hold on for a second here because I believe that we have now, as I mentioned, we hit the 15-minute clock and we've hit the end of qualifying here. We should have our drivers gridding up here in just a moment, and we'll talk about our sponsors for tonight's race here in just a moment. I think we still have Caleb Pocock out on track. Caleb, for a time being, was our fastest Spec Racer Ford driver, but I believe he is now back where he belongs. Well, let's do this. We've got our starting grid. Tell you what, Ron, why don't you run down the T3 starters and I'll run down T4.
Alrighty, sounds like a plan. I'll get my vocal cords warmed up here. So we've got Beans Forrester on the pole in the T3 category. Then we've got Caleb Patry in P2 rounding out your front row. That's Kyle Robertson in P3, Caleb Pocock in 4th. That's Jeff Jacobs, a man that I'm very familiar with, being a fellow member of the Philly region here in the SCCA. He is in 5th. And then it's Joshua Justice in P6, Michael Snow in P7, Corey Heffron in P8, and that's Jonathan Murchison in the 9th position. That's Andre Jameson rounding out your top 10, and then the final starter, I believe, in the T3 category is Russ Lindberg.
All right, there you go. All right, and your pole sitter tonight, coming all the way from Seoul, South Korea, in the Touring 4 machines in the Volkswagen Jetta TDI Cup cars, it's Seth Spolman. Trenton Kramer coming off a very impressive run in B-Spec in his B-Spec Mini this past weekend at the runoffs. Will start on the outside of the front row. Yeah, actually, he actually had the decal on the back of his Mini that said, "Don't worry, I've done this on iRacing." I thought it was hilarious. Miles Crabb will start 3rd tonight with Megan Overstreet starting next to Miles on the outside of row number 2. Then we've got Skip Brock Jr. With Gary Winters making up row number 3. Andrew Love and Jacob Schilling starting 7th and 8th in row number 4. Then Joaquin Effinger and Josh Soto, who's making a run here tonight in a front-wheel drive machine, I think for the very first time. And then Wayne Buttermore in the number 73 machine. All right, real quick, let's talk about our 2 sponsors for tonight's race. We're going to start off with our sponsor of the GR86s, the T3 class, and that is the Common Gear, your single source for securely digitizing and storing automotive maintenance records. From photos of maintenance or restoration work to scans of receipts, users can easily catalog every piece of a car's story. Digitize or scan and back up securely in one location. Remember that documenting your diagnostic and repair processes is as important as the work itself. And with the Common Gear, you can keep track of the steps you take, the parts and experts you use, all of the aspects of your car's history. Don't risk losing value in your investment due to lost or incomplete service and repair records. For more information, visit Common Gear at www.thecommongear.com or on Instagram at _Common Gear. And then, of course, we've got Grass Paddock Motorsports, and we're going to talk a little bit more about their Sim to Track initiative in just a little bit. And Steve, I'm glad to have you on board. We can talk about that. Grass Paddock Motorsports provides Mini Cooper race car rentals, trackside support, and coaching at tracks all over the eastern half of the country. GPM provides podium-capable rentals for B-Spec, the fastest-growing class of racing in the SCCA, for 3 years running, and it's the 4th largest class overall. Grass Paddock has a unique approach where their race cars are located near the track you want to race at instead of being in a centralized location, and that way you get to avoid those large towing fees. Come join us at Grass Paddock Motorsports, where Grass Paddock is not about our location, but about our attitude. For more information, visit www.grasspaddock.com. All right, so we've got that Porsche pace car, and I'll tell you that Porsche pace car, it's a lot more snazzy than the Pontiac G6 that Graham Taylor, the DC region's pace car driver, usually uses to pace races at Summit Point. But the pace car now on the pit lane, that turns the field over to Beans Forster, our pole sitter in the class. He's to the driver's right in that blue and yellow machine. Caleb Patry to his left. A little bit further behind, we've got the Jettas. They're just coming out of turn 10, but green flag is in the air. Good jump by Forster as Patry tries to come over to the center a little bit. He's going to slot right behind Caleb Patry as Kyle Robertson in the green and black machine left a bit of a hole open. Patry moves back to the outside. He's going to try and sweep around the outside of Forster, and he appears to get it done as he leads the field down to turn 3. In the Jetta TDI Cup cars, Trenton Kramer now jumping out to an early lead over pole sitter Seth Spolman in that 444 machine, Ron.
That was a very clean start. I was expecting a little bit of chaos, but this is really the turn that we got to keep our eyes on. It's going into turn 4, this very fast right-handed king, before you have to slam on the brakes going into turn 5, starting off this very tight and twisty section, which is also pretty bumpy. It's characterized by its bumps. As someone who's driven has driven the IndyCar around here in iRacing, I can tell you my arms did not appreciate the bumps going through this section of the track. I'm sure the drivers are feeling that there as they try and haul these touring cars through that section of the circuit, but I was just about to say everyone kept it clean. There was a driver farther behind that actually went off. I believe that was Andre Jameson, who went off the track in the small little section there between turns 8 and 9. But so far, besides that one small incident there, so far so clean.
Yeah, and you can see Andre there in the number 27 Toyota getting bottled up and swallowed up by some of these Jettas coming through turn number 10. It would probably behoove him to slot behind a couple of those Jettas, try to use the draft, maybe then going down into turn number 1, see if he can pull ahead. It looks like we also have another machine that is a little bit off the pace, and I think that's Michael Snow in the 077 machine that has fallen back as both Patry and Forster seem to have gotten a jump on the rest of the GR86 field.
So far, fairly clean start, but I saw a little bit of I would call it lawn mowing action, but I was actually running in the gravel there coming through the turn 3 there, which is definitely not a mistake that you want to make in this season now with the reworked physics. And there's a car spinning around. I'm not sure who that was because for some reason my graphics are not popping up right now, but just small little incidents here and there that tend to pile up.
That's right. That's Corey Heffron, who goes off on the outside of turn 5. And so we've already had a couple of our drivers drop off there. Let's take a look at a replay and see exactly what happened to him as he comes down through the chute, turns in, may have gotten a lot of curb there, which is definitely with those Toyotas going to throw them off. And I think the other challenge there, Ron, for young Mr. Heffron, or maybe not so young Mr. Heffron, is he tried to crank the car all the way back over to driver's right and set the car up for turn 5. Turn 5, you typically want to be center of track to maybe even a little bit left of center. And I think given how soft these Toyotas are sprung and the way they shift their weight around, it just really upset the car. With that last little moment, he might have been okay if he'd just gone over the curb and let the car flow.
Yeah, that's something you got to keep our eyes on in these Toyotas. Something you brought up during the VIR broadcast 2 weeks ago is how quick weight distribution change can really affect the way these cars are handling. It'll really upset them, and that's something that unfortunately caught out Heffron badly there. That's a very tricky section of the track. The weight distribution there is really a pain to deal with, and in these Toyotas, which, as you said, are fairly soft compared to the Jettas, and unfortunately caught him off badly. But that's just a characteristic of this track, and that's something you got to keep your mind on in these Toyotas. It's just that quick little direction change will also lead to a lot of weight change there with these fairly heavy Toyota GR86s, and unfortunately for Hefferon, that cost him out badly. But right now we've got a nice battle heating up here between Beans Forcer and Patry. This is going to be some close stuff heading into one.
Yeah, so Patry has got Forster. Forster pulls right up to the back bumper in the draft. We've got Kyle Robertson a little bit further back behind, and then Caleb Pocock and Jeff Jacobs. And interesting to note that Jeff Jacobs, part of the executive leadership team of the SCCA Foundation. So glad to have him here. We had saw him at the runoffs just a few days ago, and again, good to have him here. But let's jump back over to this battle for the lead in the Jettas, if you don't mind there, Josh. And we were on them here just a moment ago, as things have tightened up here, and we always see very tight racing in these Jettas, and it is Trenton Kramer still your leader in the 444 machine, Seth Spolman in the yellow 42, and then Megan Overstreet directly behind. And last season, season number 9, Megan Overstreet was your Jetta champion, the T4 champion, with Mike Snow, who is currently running 5th in class. He finished 2nd overall last season, and then Morgan Burkhardt, who is not here with us tonight, finished in 3rd, and I think that was probably because I was monopolizing all his time having to do track guides. But good battle here as they're coming up out of turn 8, as we're now just about a quarter through this 20-minute race. So Stevie, since we still have you on here, we've talked before about the Grass Paddock Motorsports Sim to Track initiative. And I think it's really brought a number of racers into this Jetta class that normally would not race. That may choose something else, like maybe something more modern, like the Toyotas.
Yeah, I think it did. We've got quite a few. Well, I can't say quite a few, but we got a few more than we had last season or the season before. So it is growing, and it's got, like you see, it's got some great competition. The guys are driving it well. That you mentioned, Megan having to learn something a little different. So it's the front wheel drive, which is a lot of what the B specs are. So it's really a growing class.
Yeah, and so for those of you that haven't joined us, this is I think the 3rd season that we have been running this calendar year. The Sim to Track initiative from Grass Paddock Motorsports, who's owned by Frank Schwartz, who's a many-time racer here in the league. And essentially what Grass Paddock is doing is they are going to be offering up 2 free rides in their Mini Cooper race cars. One is for an already licensed competition racer to race in a B-Spec race, free of charge and with full support. And the other, and I think this is something that is really neat, is for a driver that does not have a competition license but wants to race in real life, whether it be NASA or SCCA or Grid Life, and we will help them. Grass Paddock will put them through a driver's school so that they can get a competition license, a race licensing school, I think is a better way to put it. And we've got a 3-person committee that at the end of the calendar year will be making decisions on who will be behind the seats of those cars. And it's just not Stevie, I guess, and maybe you can explain it, but it's not just who wins the championship in a class, but we're looking at a number of different criteria.
Yeah, it's who's most deserving, and that's participation, clean driving, advancing their skills during the seasons. Just there's several factors that we'll be looking at.
Indeed. And so actually Stevie Ray, Frank Schwartz, and myself at the end of the calendar year will be looking at awarding those prizes, and hopefully we'll see some of our Ray Sports Racing League drivers on track in Grass Paddock's Mini Coopers in 2024.
Yeah, that's going to be an awesome opportunity for some of the guys that just haven't had a chance yet to do it or to try it out, to get in a seat and do it.
All right, so let's take a look here now. Hey, Ron, it looks like Caleb Patry starting to inch away from Beans Forster and Kyle Robertson.
I was just going to say that. I took a quick look at the live timing, and Patra has just been, I mean, he's been just hitting his marks, just doing everything he needs to do, and I think if these two of Robertson and Forster start battling a little bit, I think he'll continue to pull away even more, and I think if they battle hard enough, I think Jeff Jacobs right now in P4, a few seconds behind, might actually be able to close up too. I mean, we're still short of the halfway mark. There's still plenty to play for in this race, but I think right now it's looking very good for Caleb Patra and Mason, possibly even good for Jeff Jacobs, who could probably snag a podium if the chips fall in the right way for him. Right as I was about to mention how if Forster and Robertson start battling, I believe they're going side by side farther up ahead, or we're going side by side towards the start of the start-finish straightaway. That or just my eyes deceiving me, but those two are still extremely close, and I'm sure Jeff is probably thinking, I just want these two to battle so I can close up that a little bit. You can hear the Jaws theme starting to play a little bit as he's thinking, I need to really catch up, because right now they're pulling away. I want them to battle really hard, and if they do that, I will be golden.
That's right. So right now, Jacobs about 4 seconds in arrears from Forster and Robertson, as Patry has opened up a little bit over a second advantage over those cars, but things are a lot closer in the Jetta race. And here they come, coming out of turn number 2, heading into turn 3, where again, a little bit of brush of the brakes, and then heading over through this fairly cambered corner. And you know, you'd made a mention a little bit earlier, Ron, about coming out of turn 3 and how the drivers have to be careful. The one thing I've found is if you get that wrong a little bit, and there's a big tendency to turn in maybe a little bit early at turn 3, you just straighten up the wheel, the track comes right back to you, and you head right down the hill. But look at these 4 cars all in a row, all very closely matched. Now, directly behind them, there's Michael Snow in that 077 car, and I think he's playing it right at this point, Ron. You know, he's so far back from the rest of the GR86 race, and he's just kind of letting these Jettas, he's letting them race. He's not getting in the middle of it. Although I guarantee you, Miles Crabb in that blue 131 machine, he's probably looking back in the mirror every once in a while trying to figure out if the Jetta is going to try and make a move.
Yeah, if these Jettas had rear cameras, you could definitely see the front end of Snow there. He was extremely close. I think they were trying to bump each other in this small little stretch there between turns 9 and 10. So that's, yeah, but you can see Snow looking for the move there down the inside. We've got a big Constantina effect there as they went on the brakes. I saw Megan Overstreet looking for the move there on Spoolman, who actually had a very big snap there coming through turn 4 last lap. But as you said, that you can straighten up the wheel to kind of save it. With these front-wheel drive Jettas, you can just give it a little burst of power and stop that rear end from kicking out too badly. So that'll be one thing that these Jettas have a little bit of an advantage of here with the Toyotas. You can see just Snow looking for the move around the outside of Miles Crabb going in there, and now trying to go down the inside of turn 5. I think Crabb is going to concede that there. He is just definitely the rear gunner of this. I feel like he was definitely holding up Snow a little bit. I think Snow's getting a bit impatient here, so he's starting to act as a little bit of a wrench in these works.
Yeah, I was going to say that on the last lap that it looked like Snow was sitting back and being patient, but I guess that patience only goes so far, and so he leapfrogs both Overstreet and Miles Crabb. Now, the one thing in doing that, you'll notice that that Overstreet has fallen a little bit off the 2 cars, the 2 Jettas ahead. Thankfully, these Jettas, they draft pretty darn well. They put a big hole in the air, and we may see Overstreet and Crabb able to draft back up. But it was very interesting there where we saw Snow coming out of turn 10 when we had Kramer and Spolman move over drivers right. He moved over drivers right as well to stay in the draft here. So and again, using that draft of those taller cars. Let's move back over to the GR86 lead, though. Quite a bit ahead of where Michael Snow is, and again, Caleb Patry now. He's lost a little bit of that advantage that he had over Forster and Robertson. Forster and Robertson seem to be working together still. At least they're not battling with one another, and Forster's maybe opened up a little bit of a gap, maybe a half a second on Robertson, and inched a little bit closer to the back of Patry. All the while, Jeff Jacobs may have lost a little bit more ground to our top 3.
Forrester is slowly closing in right now. He's actually set the fastest lap right now at a 1:19.7, and that last lap he was actually about a little over 2/10 quicker than Caleb Patry. So I think right now Beans Forrester has a very fast race car underneath him. Yeah, you can see. Thank you, Josh, for the fastest lap graphic there. He currently has the fastest lap in the T3 category. So right now, Forrester, maybe he was just saving his stuff up a little bit. Maybe he had some kind of mistake that made him drop back a little bit of Caleb Patry. But right now, he is closing in that gap a little bit. So as we're about to hit the 3/4 mark of this race, I think Beans Forrester is looking to find any way to get past Caleb Patry, because he definitely has the speed. He just needs to find one way anyway to get past.
All right, so tell you what, let's take a look a little bit further back in the field here, if we can. And I think this is, let's take a look. This is the battle for, I'm looking back. Let's go to Josh Soto if we can, Josh. Let's see, there he is in the 07 machine. And actually things have opened up a little bit here. There he is. And so right behind Josh Soto, we've got Joaquin Effinger. Also, we have Andrew Love and Russ Lundberg as well. And it looks like we've got Wayne Buttermore in that battle as well. Now, this currently, as you can see here, is the battle for 7th in the Jettas. But, you know, this is the tight racing, the close racing that we see in this Volkswagen Jetta class, Stevie, that you know, that we keep our eyes on in trying to determine this Sim to Track initiative.
Yeah, it's the racing like this that really gives us an idea of who's been doing their practice, who really wants to be the go to driver school.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, and also how, you know, a big part of this is how these drivers work in traffic together. And here we go, is Joaquin Effinger in the 700 machine coming down the inside on Josh Soto. I think Soto saw him there, and they maintain a nice little gap there coming through turn 1. They're going to be side by side coming out of 2, making the run down to 3. Soto's going to have position going into turn 3, but I'll tell you, when you come from the inside there from driver's left, it makes it a very tight entry. But Soto retakes the position, and look at this. Andrew Love in the 945 machine. He's got to make sure he doesn't run off track, but he just followed Soto right on through and gets around Joaquin Effinger as well.
That was some very close stuff there. Andrew Love just, you brought the point up there, Greg, how he was just inches, and you could boil it down to centimeters away from mowing the grass there going into turn 5. That was definitely a very interesting line, but he pulled the move off. So regardless of how he had to do it, he got the move done, and that's all that really matters.
All right, and we're looking right now at a obviously not a battle in class, but Corey Heffron in the 52 Toyota, Jacob Schilling, who is currently running 6th in the Jettas, and they're having a nice little battle. But look at this, coming down out of 10, moving over is we had Andrew Love looking to driver's right. Soto came right across his nose to defend, keeps the car to the inside, but this little battle is kind of heating up here between Love and Soto now, as we drop back and look at Lundberg and Effinger. Lundberg in the Toyota, Effinger in that orange Jetta. But now Andrew Love, the 945 car, he gets around Josh Soto. So move Love up into 7th position, and they're not done yet. This is a neat little fight.
If I
This is a
can,
fantastic.
That's
Sorry about
Andy.
that, Stevie.
oh, that's all right. And I was going to say, this is Andrew Love's home track. He's been working sound at this track for something like 25 years or
That's
something,
right.
just past the starter stand. So he knows this track inside out.
He does, and as a matter of fact, Andrew was just at VIR this past weekend as well, and got to talk to him again. He has been working sound, and this will be good practice for him, because the Mid-Atlantic Road Racing Series returns to Summit Point Raceway this weekend, and here I might as well throw in a little plug. If you want to come by Summit Point this weekend, I'll be up there announcing with former Esports Racing League announcer Brian Donati, and or you can catch us on YouTube. We'll have 8 cameras around Summit Point Raceway. Look at this as Love is coming down hard on the braking in the one, pinned all the way to the inside. If you go to youtube.com/@WDCR, we'll have the event for you live all weekend long, so you don't want to miss that. But come by Summit Point and find a place on what's left of the bleachers there and watch some great racing this weekend.
I think right now we've got some battling up towards the front of the T3 category between Caleb Patry and Beans Forrester. They're about 0.2 of a second separating those drivers. We've got battles all up and down this field. This is one we've been following as of late between Soto and Love. These drivers are seeing the time ticking away. They're seeing the checkered flag nearing, and they're bringing their elbows out in the final stages of this race. We've got a fantastic battle here in the other Jettas, and we've got this great battle here up towards the front of the T3 category. I believe they might be taking the white flag this time by, or they actually might take the checkered this time. It's very close.
Ron, I believe they are on the final lap right now as they come through the carousel here, nose to tail. As you can see that Beans Forrester has left Kyle Robertson quite a bit behind as they're coming up the hill, and we currently have 5 seconds left on the clock. And so when they cross that finish line, that will be our winner tonight in GR86 Cup T3. Patry keeps the car to the inside, pushing Forster all the way to the out, trying to get the side draft off of the 198 car. And as they come down the hill towards the line, Caleb Patry is your T3 winner. Beans Forster will finish second. Kyle Robertson will finish in third. So let's move over to the Jettas now. And there you go. Trenton Kramer now, just when he needed to. He has opened up a gap over Seth Spolman in the number 42 machine, but Spolman, he's got Miles Crabb, he's got Megan Overstreet directly behind, and now Michael Snow in that 77 machine as he had the Jettas pass him by once again. Hopefully he will, on this very last lap, stay behind these cars, let them battle it out for the last podium positions. But if Trenton Kramer can bring it on to the front straight, and he does, he should take home the win in Touring 4. He's doing the weave, and he is your winner. Finishing second tonight will be your pole sitter, Seth Spolman. Miles Crabb will finish in third, and Megan Overstreet finishes just off the podium.
That was a nice photo finish there. They're going side by side coming across the line. I was really keeping my eye on that, just seeing, couldn't really get the best of views there with the camera angle that we were on, but that was still very close. We've had some great, oh Lord, that's a Jetta going into space there in the background there. Tumbling coming into turn 1, but that was, we've seen some fantastic photo finishes so far this season, and that was another one. Well, it wasn't as close as we've seen so far this season, but that was still pretty close there between Miles Crabb and Megan Overstreet for the final podium position, as we see a Jetta lawn darted there in the braking zone for turn 1.
All right, Ron, so let's go, and we already have them in the green room, and Stevie Ray, if you have any questions, we're going to bring in Trenton Kramer. He's our winner in T4.
Hey Trenton, congratulations.
Thank you.
You just you got some good practice this weekend for the real important race tonight.
Yeah, you know, Summit Point, I resemble that a lot as like a miniature version of VIR. It's just a lot of straight lines in one section and a lot of corners in the other.
Well, awesome. I just congratulate you, and I'm going to turn you over to the pros that do this. So.
There you go, Ron. Why don't you take it away?
I'm definitely not a professional at anything. Trent, thank you so much for joining us. I'll ask you one quick question. How was the race?
It was a little lonely for a little bit, but you know, once they started closing that gap, it was definitely a little terrifying. It's my first Ray Esports win, so that feels great.
It's always good to take a nice first win here, and definitely a track like this, which is pretty challenging. I'll ask you this quick question. What was probably the toughest corner on this track to master?
Definitely turn 5. You know, these, as Morgan likes to say, these cars are allergic to rotation. It is definitely true when you're coming flying in at around 100 miles an hour and you have to get it through a hairpin. It doesn't work late in the race.
Kind of like driving a brick, basically a brick on sofa coasters, you could say. Trent, thank you so much for joining us. Anyone you'd like to give thanks to or shout out?
Stevie Ray at Ray Esports. He's a great guy, both in person and on the good old sim racing. And you guys for putting on a great show.
Thank you, Trent, so much for joining us. We hope to see you in the Spec Racer Ford race later tonight.
Sounds good. See you there.
All right, there you go. Trenton Kramer coming off of his top 10 finish at the National Championship runoffs this weekend at VIR in his Mini Cooper, taking the win tonight in the Volkswagen Jetta. So let's bring in now Caleb Patry, your winner in the GR86 Cup Cars.
Caleb, thank you for joining us, my friend. How's the race?
And that was pretty darn fun, actually. That was a display of two completely different setups. I know Beans was running a more lower downforce setup than I. I wasn't happy with the set that I ran last week, so I opted to go back to the iRacing default high downforce setup, which the car felt really good at the start, and then towards the end it just wasn't rotating as well as Beans' car, and but it was kind of a slug in the straight line, so probably not the greatest setup, but it was a good clean battle up there at the end, and I was thankful enough to come out on top.
I'll tell you, that fight between you and Beans Forster was kind of like a nice game of cat and mouse. You dropped back a little bit, then closed in towards the end, so you brought up the setup difference. Could you talk the other viewers through how your setup made your car drive?
Yeah, so I was running more, so higher downforce, meaning I was running more wing, so more grip in the corners, but at the expense of straight line speed. So Beans would get good runs of me in the straight, but I was able to outbrake and sort of outdrive him to the infield, but towards the end of the race, it didn't really matter. That I think the tires kind of went off with how much downforce I was running. So that got a little difficult.
Well, you still came out on top regardless. Thank you so much for joining us. Anyone you'd like to give thanks to or shout out?
Sure. Steve Ray and everybody who puts these races on. My teammates at Delta Sport for all their support. And of course, shout out to the guys, Morgan and Beans and Murphy and Discord for making it a fun night.
That was definitely a fun night here from the other commentary booth, and I hope it was definitely fun for you behind the wheel. Caleb, thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you in the Spec Racer Ford race later this night.
You sure will. Thank you, guys.
All right, there you go. Caleb Patry, your winner tonight in the GR86 Cup Cars. So, Ron, Stevie Ray, let's take a quick little break here. And when we come back, it's time for race number 2. It's going to be the Spec Racer Fords here at Summit Point Raceway. You are watching season number 10 of the Esports Racing League on Apex Racing TV, and we'll be right back.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
And welcome back to week number 3 of the Ray Esports Racing League's 10th season. I'm Greg Ginsberg along with Ron Munz. We're here at Summit Point Raceway and want to again congratulate our podium finishers from race number 1 tonight in the GR86 Cup cars. Caleb Patry taking the win, Beans Forster and Kyle Robertson. And in the Jettas, Trenton Kramer with the win, Seth Spolman second, Miles Crabb taking the bronze here tonight. But Ron, now it is time for Spec Racer Ford, and we've got our racers just about 9 minutes into our 15-minute qualifying session here, and we can watching Morgan Burkhardt out qualifying with the 198 machine of Caleb Patry, as Patry just came off that GR86 Cup win. Morgan Burkhardt in the number 40 Spec Racer Ford, and you know, I don't know if I mentioned this, and I know I didn't, but Morgan Burkhardt had a mixed week at the runoffs. He was the very first runoffs rookie in 20 years to put a car on pole. Morgan Burkhardt, in only his second year of we'll call it sports car racing, out of go-karts, was your pole sitter at the national championship runoffs in a field of almost 45 drivers, and he was right up there in the mix until about 4 laps to go when he had a mechanical failure, ended his race early. But a very impressive run for the 17-year-old, and currently he is qualified 3rd with just a few moments to go here. But great run for him.
That was a very valiant effort for Morgan. It's I'm really proud of the kid. You know, I first met him back many moons ago in 2016 when I let him drive my old go-kart for the first time. That was the first time he had ever been behind the wheel of a gas go-kart, and to see where he is in racing now is it touches my heart a little bit. The results really don't show it, but he had a fantastic week at the runoffs, and I think he'll try and look for some kind of retribution here with the Spec Racer Fords here in the Ray Esports series.
Well, hopefully he won't take out his aggression on anybody, but definitely, and I'll tell you, it was really neat and warmed my heart for a driver who did not finish the race. All 3 of the podium finishers at the runoffs at podium ceremonies for that race called him out specifically. I think they all know that going forward he is going to be a force to be reckoned with. in that class as Morgan Burkhardt now goes to the top of the leaderboard. He's got a 1500th of a second advantage now over Josh Soto. And you know, it was a very good week for the Burkhardt family in particular, not just Morgan, as his parents, and I hope they're listening right now, were named SCCA Volunteers or Workers of the Year for starts. And Morgan, I think I may have mentioned this, is a third-generation Sports Car Club of America member. His parents raced. Both of his parents are former Mid-Atlantic Road Racing Series champions, and his grandparents were long time. His grandmother Sheila still works in timing and scoring, and his grandfather Josh was a longtime flagger who was actually a former F&C chief for many years at the runoff. So he's got racing in his blood, and I think it kind of shows. All right, let's take a look here. And again, Burkhardt, your provisional pole sitter, now with 1500th of a second advantage. Caleb Patry now jumping up provisionally to second with a qualifying time of 118.19. And then Josh Soto with almost the identical time. And look at this. Caleb Patry, 118.190. Josh Soto, 118.193. 3 1,000ths of a second separate our second and third fastest drivers on course.
Just couldn't get any closer there. Well, you could get closer, but that would just be ridiculous at that point. But it's still extremely close in this field, and I can't speak for you, Greg, but I'm sure you share this exact same feeling going into this race. As actually Josh Huffman breaks up that front row start there for Patry. He breaks into the front row. But getting back to the point I was going to make there, I got the opportunity to do the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors broadcast earlier this week here on Apex Racing TV on Sunday, and we were running at this exact track here in the Spec Racer Fords, and it was an amazing race with those cars. And I'm sure with a slightly smaller field here, but still a very competitive field, I think it will be another fantastic race here tonight.
Indeed. All right, so let's take a look here. It's been a couple of weeks now since the Spec Racer Fords were with us in the Esports Racing League. They were here for week number 1 back on September 12th at Watkins Glen International. Miles Crabb was your winner. He took the win over Morgan Burkhardt. And let's take a look. Miles Crabb, currently our 6th fastest driver in qualifying with only 1 minute and 15 seconds remaining. Burkhardt finished second. Skip Brock Jr. Came home in third with Ethan O-Ring and Megan Overstreet rounding out the top 5. And now they're not racing here this week, but they will return next week. And that is Spec Miata. They have had 2 races already. They were with us the opening night at Watkins Glen, and then 2 weeks ago at Virginia International Raceway. And Morgan Burkhardt, currently your points leader in Spec Miata with 50 points. And that is 18 clear of Lewis Lockshine, who is 32. Beans Forster, 28. Megan Overstreet tied right now for 4th with Josh Justice at 27 points, and then 9th is I can't count. 6th is Trevor Roy with 26 points, and Trevor is tied with Kyle Robertson, Skip Brock Jr., and Miles Crabb. So very, very tight running right now in Spec Miata, and again, we will see them next week. And here, let me let the cat out of the bag. We're going to be at
Laguna Seca.
WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. So going all the way from the East Coast to the West Coast in just a week's time. And make sure to join us next Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. All right, so checkered flag is out on the qualifying session. And look at this. Justin Huffman, who finished in the top 10 in Formula Enterprises 2 this weekend at the runoffs, moves up, jumps both Caleb Patry and Josh Soto to put himself onto the front row. Great run for him, as he is only, I can't do math, but he's not that far back. Let's put it that way. He's looks like he is just about 1400ths of a second back.
That is just still extremely close, much smaller than any gap that you'd ever see in Formula One nowadays, but that's extremely close. I think it will be an extremely close fight for the lead. We've seen how important the draft is with these spec racer forward cars, and even though there's only one real long straightaway on this track, so the slipstream may not be as important as it is, well, it's certainly not as important as it was at Watkins Glen a few weeks ago. I think it'll still play a mighty role in today's race, and I think that'll be something that we have to keep our eyes on throughout the rest of the season. And you mentioned there that we'll be running at Laguna Seca next week. We have a nice range of tracks that we'll be running at in a few weeks span. We had VIR, of course, the site for this year's SCCA runoffs, which is a fairly large track. And then we have CODA coming up in week 5 for this series. But of course, we have Laguna Seca coming up next week. So we have a nice range of All-American tracks, which all have their own unique flair. I think it'll be a fantastic season that we have here.
Yeah, indeed. And one of the neat things that Stevie Ray has done is he has tried to construct a schedule around some very important SCCA regional races. But we've got our grid coming up now, and let's run down the starting order. Morgan Burkhardt with a qualifying time of 1:18.039 is your pole sitter tonight. Justin Huffman, only 1,300, so 135 thousandths of a second off. He's going to start on the outside of the front row. Caleb Patry will start third tonight in the 198 machine, with Josh Soto starting to his left in the 07 car. Caleb Pocock will start fifth, and Miles Crabb sixth. That's your third row, pardon me, with Megan Overstreet and Beans Forster starting 7th and 8th. Starting 9th, we just had him in here in the booth a little while ago, Stevie Ray, the Ray in Ray Esports Racing. He starts 9th, with Corey Heffron rounding out your top 10. Then we've got Josh Justice with John Vogel in the Carrier machine. He's going to start 11th and 12th. Then Trenton Kramer and Brian Heffron 13th and 14th. Seth Spolman and Joe Camilleri also just off of runoffs running his Volkswagen Scirocco. He's going to start 16th. And then rounding out the field, it's row number 9, Joaquin Effinger in the number 700 machine, Wayne Buttermore in the 73 as they start to roll off.
I think I'll give your voice a quick little rest here and just go through one corner that I think will be very challenging for these drivers. That's going to be turn 7 with these Spec Racer Fords. Just trying to get the power on coming through the very tight, twisty middle section of this circuit and try and get as much speed as you can coming out of turn 7, going through the quick section of turn 8 and 9 before you hit the final corner and go on that very long straightaway. That'll be important to keep our eyes on for these drivers.
All right, as the safety car now, or pace car, bringing the field through turn 2 and making the short run to turn 3, and probably see some of these drivers start to lean on the tires a little bit, try to get some heat in the equipment. They do light up a little bit faster than what we saw in the Jettas and the GR86 Cup cars, but if anything, they actually light up a little bit faster than they do in real life. So we'll see here, but for the time being, all of our racers seem to be very content just to keep side by side as they come down the hill here through the chute. And as Ron was mentioning here, so after Laguna Seca, we're going to be going to the Circuit of the Americas, but then, and this is going to correspond with a regional race down in the southeast in the spring. We're going to be going to Sebring on October 24th, and then Halloween night. That's right, it's going to be all kinds of scary, and corresponds to the American Road Race of Champions happening at this track just a few days later. We're going to be heading to Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. Then we're going to be heading up to the Bullring Lime Rock Park. Barber Motorsports Park is next. And then we are going to have the Ray Esports Racing League virtual runoffs. That's going to be November 21st, just before Halloween. And we're going to be at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, a course that hosted the SCCA's National Championship runoffs for so many years. But now, Ron, the pace car is on the pit lane. The field has been turned over to Morgan Burkhardt, Justin Huffman to his left. Burkhardt's good friend, you heard him give the shout out a little earlier, just behind Caleb Patry. And look at that, we've got a car that's already lost bodywork, and we haven't even seen the green flag yet. Was that Joaquin Effinger that lost the bodywork in the back there? Green flag is in the air, and we are racing once again here at Summit Point.
Didn't see any of the bodywork falling off, but never mind that. It looks like Megan Overstreet's going for a bold move going down the inside. Turn 1, making it 3 wide there. That's very tight there, and there's contact there. We've got drivers spinning off. There's contact there. I believe Caleb Patry there made contact there.
Yeah, Heffron and Soto appear to have gone around. Soto losing a number of positions, I believe losing 12 positions now, as the 07 car drops back to just ahead of Joe Camilleri, as Burkhardt and Caleb Patry now the first 2 drivers to go through the chute at turn 4. Patry making a bold move down the inside. He's going to push Burkhardt out wide, and Patry gets the pass made. Burkhardt will slot in the second. Justin Huffman is currently running third, and Megan Overstreet, you said it, Overstreet made a very bold move down to the inside on the start there, Ron, but as we saw Caleb Pocock have that little bit of contact to the outside drivers left with Josh Soto, that allowed Megan Overstreet to work her way through. She now finds herself in 4th, having made up 3 positions on the start.
That was such a bold move. If it was in a Word document, you'd put italicization and some underline over it. That was a fantastic move there from Megan Overstreet, although it did result in some contact. But just because that ended in near disaster for some drivers, that hasn't shown them off to stop going 3 wide coming into turn 1s. We see that there. That's very close. I believe that was a little bit of argy-bargy action there as they go into turn 1. But unlike last lap there, where we saw drivers spinning, those drivers keep it clean now. We're following Stevie Ray right now. We're riding on board with him as he goes down the inside of turn 3 and tries to get the move done there on Josh Justice there. Saw a little bit of gravel action there, which is something you don't want to do in this season with the other reworked gravel physics here in iRacing. But still, a lot of drivers keeping it clean. Not a whole lot of incidents so far. It's very similar to the other touring car race we had earlier, which was a surprisingly clean start. We also have another surprisingly clean start here, but just because it's clean doesn't mean it hasn't been action-packed so far.
All right, so we were just watching there a moment ago, John Vogel, currently running 9th, a Spec Racer Ford driver in real life, much like Josh Justice is, and much like Stevie Ray was, as they work up the hill, come underneath the bridge to complete lap number 1. And we see there Josh Soto already there in just a lap on a good recovery. He has made up now 5 positions since that lap 1 turn 1 spin, and he is not door to door, he's side by side with the 444 of Trenton Kramer as they head down into turn number 1. And we see Heffron try to make a move to the inside in that dark colored car on Soto as well.
Metal to sheet metal, bumper to bumper, whatever you want to call it, with some very close racing. We have it here in the Ray Esports Series. We've got some more side-by-side action there coming through turn 3. That's extremely close. That was definitely contact as they went through the very fast left-hander of turn 3. You don't really see a whole lot of side-by-side action there, but those drivers made it through fairly cleanly. That's not over yet here as we see some more battling here with Kramer. Oh, there's a car spinning off farther up ahead. That's Beans Forrester there. Beans Forrester was running in a decent position there and spins off. He had a fantastic touring car race earlier. Unfortunately for him, he loses control going into turn number 5. Not sure what happened. We're going to get a replay.
And see exactly what happened to him here as he comes down through the chute, sets up much like we saw in that first race. Gets very hard on the brakes from drivers left. Probably driver's right, comes across the apex, and he locked up the rear brakes. Maybe a brake balance issue there, and the rear end comes around, and he finds a good position to slot back in. Unfortunately for Beans, though, he slots back in 16th position. So a tremendous drop for him after qualifying much further up in the field. As Morgan Burkhardt now leading the field. He's got Caleb Patry, and then slotting into 3rd, it's Justin Huffman, who started on the outside of the front row, and then Megan Overstreet right on the gearbox of the 223 machine, as we've got a 4-car breakaway here working lap number 4.
Megan Overstreet is very confident in her race car right now. You can see she set the fastest lap of the race at 1:18.1. That's nearly about a second quicker than Morgan's fastest lap so far. So Megan Overstreet has a rocket ship of a spec racer Ford right now. It's just a matter of, did she wear off her tires too soon? Did she use up her stuff too early? Or is she going to have to pace to contend with these drivers all throughout this race? We're only a quarter of a way in here, but right now Megan Overstreet is setting the pace right now as looking to try and find a way to break into the podium position. She'll probably be eyeing up a move here on Huffman very soon.
All right, so let's watch here as Megan Overstreet caught in the draft now of Justin Huffman. As Huffman pulls over drivers right, she does as well, as these two drivers try to get past the 40 machine of Morgan Burkhardt, your pole sitter tonight, and a bit of contact there as Morgan Burkhardt tries to turn in at turn 1 and finds the 044 already filling the space. He's now going to slot back into 4th position as Overstreet now slots in behind Justin Huffman. So Caleb Patry, your leader, Justin Huffman running 2nd. Huffman now looks to the inside, going down through the chute, as does Burkhardt, forcing Overstreet all the way to driver's left, which is good. She can defend from there. And now we see Morgan Burkhardt coming underneath Justin Huffman, makes the same move on Huffman that we saw Patry make on lap number 1.
Teamwork may make the dream work in most stick and ball sports, but here in the world of auto racing, it's every man or woman for themselves here. Got a lot of drivers just trying to claw for every position. Megan Overstreet was being and banging there with Morgan coming into turn 1, and I think we might see round 2 here. Maybe it looked like Morgan was peeking a wheel going into turn 10, but I think he'll try and look for some kind of comeback here. Definitely was in control of this race early on, then got shuffled back this time last lap and might go for the move on Megan Overstreet before Megan Overstreet goes for the move on Caleb Patry. We might see some 3-wide action here. We are seeing some 3-wide action before they even hit the brakes coming into turn 1. It's Morgan on the inside, Megan in the middle, and they all get through cleanly, but it's not over yet as Caleb Patry is still stuck on the outside with Megan Overstreet on his inside, but they all manage to get through cleanly, and Morgan retakes the lead here, but this battle is definitely not over yet.
All right, and as these 4 have been fighting, start looking at the 88 car. Again, he didn't have the greatest lap 1 turn 1, but Caleb Pocock in the number 88 machine, he is slowly but surely inching up to our top 4. And then we've got Miles Crabb, and again, Crabb had a real good race in Spec Racer Ford, taking the win in the initial race at Watkins Glen. He's starting to make up a little bit of ground. That last time by, he ran a 119 flat, about a quarter of a second faster than our top 4 drivers.
There's a lot of drivers making some very solid impressions. A lot of drivers also showing their elbows, showing their rougher side here. You'd usually expect to see these drivers break their elbows out a little bit later on, usually by the time they hit the halfway mark of this race. But we're 8 minutes in now of this 20-minute race, and these drivers are still battling very hard. This 4-car pack has now turned into a 5-car pack because these drivers continue to battle hard. Caleb Patry is now looking to retake the lead, actually get the lead there on Megan Overstreet. Now Morgan Burkhardt is looking to retake the lead with a fantastic move there. He kind of came out of nowhere there on Caleb Patry. They're going side by side coming into turn 3. This is going to be very close. Looked like Megan Overstreet was nearly going to make it 3-wide there. Both of those drivers go side by side in that you'd expect anyone to back at, but neither of them have, and now it looks like Megan Overstreet's getting really racy behind them. Looked like they were going to go 3-wide coming into turn 4. I don't think any of these drivers would dare tempt fate like that so very early on in this race. But right now, Morgan and Patry continue to go side by side. Now they finally get a line astern with Morgan retaking the lead. That was some brilliant stuff to watch.
All right, let's do this, Josh. Why don't we jump a little bit further back in the pack? This is a great battle going on up front, but there you go. That is another heck of a battle going on. Josh Justice, Trenton Kramer with John Vogel in the number 4 machine. Trenton Kramer and Vogel just now swapping positions. Then we've got Stevie Ray in the Ray Esports number 11 and Gary Heffron as well, as they were also at 1.3 wide going into the carousel. They come out now, and finally Justice seems to have broken free as Stevie Ray now leapfrogs, but great little fight going on here a little bit further back in the bunch here. Justice running 7th, Ray now taking over 8th position, and just behind it's Soto, who had made up, again, a number of positions after lap 1, turn 1. He holds off Seth Spolman down in the turn 1. That's the battle for 11th.
Farther up towards the front of the field, we have Caleb Patry and Morgan continue to battling. They're still battling here. Morgan actually dropped into second as they went to turn 1. We also saw a pass there with Pocock and Huffman there, but they continue to go side by side up towards the front. We've got battles all up and down this field. I feel bad for our producer Josh, who probably needs about 10 eyeballs to focus on all the battles we have going on right now. But this is some great stuff here. Morgan gets past there, coming through the very tight and twisty carousel section of this Summit Point Raceway circuit. It's a very challenging section, having to deal with the bumps and also trying to keep that car on the road with those killer curbs there on the inside of the track. You can definitely ruin your race if you hit them too hard, but all these drivers have kept through nicely, and we have a little bit of a peloton. These breakaway 3 have pulled away a little bit, but as they go onto the straightaway, I expect them to pack up even more, and as they continue to battle hard, Megan Overstreet, wow, that is a very good move there, both going for 2 moves going into the inside. That is some brilliant stuff there. I'd love to see some awesome battling here. It's leapfrog racing that we got right now.
All right, Ron, thanks so much. And as we jump back here, let's go back to that previous battle for a moment here, Josh, if we can. There we go. And there you go. It's Stevie Ray, Trenton Kramer, and Corey Heffron. As again, this is the battle now for 8th position. Is that big group of about 7 cars is now split up just a little bit, and we'll see if these 2 drivers or 3 drivers can work a little bit to find their way back up to the number 99 machine, Josh Justice. The one driver we seem to have lost, however, it's John Vogel, who has now dropped back, and looks as though he may have checked out of the session after having been in this group just a lap before. Josh, do we have anything to point back to what happened to John? All right, so getting word from director Josh that there is yeah, well, we're going to check to see if he'd gone off track. Thought as perhaps he may have run out of fuel. But good little fight there. Let's take a look. I think Josh has got us queued up. Let's see exactly what happened as they came out of turn 2, made the run towards turn number 3. And looks like somebody's got some internet connectivity issues. Yeah, blinking in and out. So there you go. As John Vogel goes off to the Netherlands. All right, let's jump back to that battle for the lead now, Josh. There you go, is Burkhardt now, and as the drivers are all fanning out coming out of turn number 3.
I believe that was Caleb Pocock there going through the gravel. That was a very hair-raising moment for the driver there. That is not a corner where you want to make a mistake on. Getting back to the point there with Vogler, I think he had some kind of serial box Wi-Fi router there that caused them to blink there, but we got Josh, some shuffling up towards the front.
All right, Ron, so Morgan Burkhardt, if you saw there, got very, very loose coming out of turn number 6. Rear end stepped out on him, and that allowed Caleb Patry to come right underneath. And that is an area that's pretty easy to defend normally. But Burkhardt got a little bit too much rotation and lost a lot of momentum. Megan Overstreet not able to take advantage of it, but Caleb Patry now jumping to the lead. All right, let's take a look and see exactly what happened to Caleb Pocock here as they came out of turn number 2 when we had rejoined the action. That they were all fanning out going through 3. Watch that 4th car.
Ooh, baby, that is a rough ride there going through the gravel. He's lucky to keep that thing going in a straight line.
All right, and luckily for Mr. Pocock, he's been listening to my coaching here. You just keep that wheel straight, track comes back to you, no harm, no foul. Let's go back to Josh Soto and Corey Heffron. Check back in on this battle now, the battle for 10th after we lost Vogel and after we lost Forster. So they've moved up a little bit in the order due to some attrition, but look at this now. I was just going to say Stevie Ray got right up to Josh Justice, but only for a moment as he loses the rear of the car, and he's off at the outside of 5, rejoins in 11th.
He nearly rear-ended Soto going into turn 5 there. I think he just outbroke himself, very similar to what Beans Forster did very early on. So just another driver getting caught out by the very tight and tricky turn 5.
All right, and here we go. Caleb Patry once again taking a look to the inside. We are now just short of 15 minutes into this 20-minute race. And again, this is our second Spec Racer Ford race of the season, out of 6 total for the Spec Racer Ford, 6 for our touring cars, 6 for our Spec Miatas. Spec Miata will return next week when we get to WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. Don't let me call it Mazda Raceway, Laguna Seca. I lose points for that. But here we go, coming out of turn number 3. It is once again a 4-car battle as Pocock tries to work his way back up. Patry, Burkhardt side by side through the high-speed shoot. Patry with position, and he is going to hold off Burkhardt and slot into the lead once again going through turn 6.
I think there actually might have been contact there between Morgan Burkhardt and Megan Overstreet coming through turn 5. That looked very close from our cameras. I'm not sure if there was contact or it was just our cameras kind of playing a little bit of an optical illusion on us, but that was still extremely close. Megan Overstreet and Morgan Burkhardt did make contact early on in this race, so that wouldn't be the biggest development in the world. These drivers are willing to get their elbows down, starting beating and banging and roughing each other up a little bit, but still some amazing stuff to watch. It's just all these drivers are giving it all they have. And right now, this battle between Caleb Patry and Morgan Burkhardt is heating up even more. They're giving 110%.
All right, so Burkhardt drafts right past the 198 machine, and appears that given that he was able to get over before they got into the braking zone, maybe keep up that pace and that gap, did not slow each other down through turn 1, and now have opened up a little bit less than a second advantage on Miles Crabb, the 131 machine, who has now worked himself clear of both Caleb Pocock and Megan Overstreet. Miles Crabb, our winner in the first race of the season in Spec Racer Fords, now in a podium position, works his way up to 3rd as Burkhardt and Patry side by side going into turn 6A. They're going to continue there as they bump over that little rise at the curbing at 6B and into 7, and now turn 8 up the hill, where Patry will have position in that increasing radius corner. Comes up the hill. Burkhardt, he's going to come down the center of track, a shorter run into turn number 10, and try to hold off the 198 machine. Remember a lap ago when I said that that they were working to keep up their momentum? Well, you go side by side through turn 10, and this is what you have. You got Miles Crabb, you've got Megan Overstreet, who are going to try to draft right on by the number 40 and the 198 into turn 1.
That was very close to contact there. You saw Morgan nearly slide into Caleb Patry as they went side by side. Ooh, I believe that's, Pocock going off there farther behind. That's tough for him. He was putting together a good race, and sadly for him, he makes another mistake there in turn 1, but never mind that. We've got a nice 4-car pack here right now. You did mention there how it looked like Patry and Morgan Burkhardt were going to try and just do a little bit of teamwork there to try and pull away, but just that did not go well. They were going side by side throughout a vast majority of that last lap. I feel like if we had a timer for the amount of time those two have spent side by side in this 18-man race, it'd probably be well over half of the race distance. They've been battling very hard right now.
All right, as we took a look a second ago at Soto and Kramer, and Soto now works his way up to 8th, getting around Trenton Kramer. Well, let's watch this battle for the lead as we now only have about probably 2 laps, actually 1 lap. Let's check this out as they come across the stripe at 18:35 or thereabouts. We should have 1 more lap remaining after this one. I believe they got across the line, and no, Barney is not waving the white flag, so we're on the penultimate lap as Patry now works his way clear of Miles Crabb, and it's Burkhardt and Patry side by side. A little bit further back there it is, and we see it right there. It's Trenton Kramer and Josh Soto, as both of them have worked their way up through the field. Soto currently running in 8th, Kramer running in 9th position as they make the run down to turn 3. And once again, Josh Soto has managed to work his way clear of a number of folks looking to take over his spot number 7. All right, let's go back to Burkhardt, Patry, Miles Crabb, Overstreet, and Huffman. Let's not forget Caleb Pocock, as we've got now just a lap and a half remaining.
I think I said a few laps ago how it looked like this battle had kind of fizzled out a little bit. Never mind, it's still a big pack here of about 6 cars, and this is going to be really good. Can Morgan Burkhardt hold on to the win? Will Megan Overstreet try and force her way back onto the podium? We'll just have to wait and see on this final lap, but I think it will be some amazing stuff. I'll let you bring it home here, Greg.
All right, here we go. White flag is now in the air. Last lap here at Summit Point Raceway. Patry, your leader. Burkhardt trying to side draft him, coming down into turn 1, presses Patry all the way to driver's right, tries to open up the corner as much as possible. Burkhardt able to slot on through. He's your new leader with only 8 corners remaining. Miles Crabb, I think the dark horse right here, looking for a way past our 2 leaders, past the 40, past the 198. It's going to be tough if they're side by side through the last lap. But here they go, and they've opened up a tiniest of gaps, about a 1/10 of a second over Overstreet. Oh, and Miles Crabb is off, and he's into the tire wall. Don't know if Overstreet got into him. Looks like Overstreet was a little bit too far back. I think Crabb likely did that on his own. We'll take a look after we get to the checkered flag.
I think that actually might have been contact there with Megan Overstreet. That did not look very natural there from Crabb.
All right, as now they come up the hill, Morgan Burkhardt, he leads Caleb Patry. He's going to defend a little bit to the inside. Patry decides to stay in line. He's going to try to get the draft, try to slingshot by the number 40, but he may be a little bit too far back, a little too late, and taking the win in Spec Racer Ford and going for the ride, Morgan Burkhardt. And finishing in 3rd tonight behind Caleb Patry, it's Megan Overstreet. Caleb Pocock, he's going to finish in 4th. Justin Huffman will finish 5th. Josh Soto finishes just behind Josh Justice. The 2 Joshes finish 6th and 7th. Miles Crabb, does he work his way back? He does. Miles Crabb finishes in 8th position. Stevie Ray works his way up to 9th. And Trenton Kramer will finish in 10th, or whatever is left of Trenton Kramer's car there in the gravel trap at turn 1 will finish in 10th.
More like a dune buggy there after he hit the wall. So a lot of these drivers finishing off tonight's racing action in style. And tell you, action was the best word to describe that. That was heart-throbbing stuff from start to finish.
All right, Josh, so let's go and we'll take a look at that replay, see exactly what happened to Miles Crabb going into turn 5.
I want to see if my theory about the contact there with Megan Overstreet was right. We'll just see what happened here.
Yeah, and it looks like she did. She got into the back of Miles Crabb, had a little bit of brake lock up there, and Crabb goes off unfortunate on the last lap. Let's take a look at another view of it if we can. And we'll look at it through the eyes of Megan Overstreet. She made up a lot of ground there, and yeah, you could see that compression coming down as perhaps even, you know, looked as though maybe Crabb either got a little bit off balance there, and maybe wasn't expecting the early braking from the 2 leaders from Burkhardt and Patry. But Megan Overstreet certainly wasn't expecting things to close up that quickly on her, and unfortunate for Miles Crabb. He goes around on the very last lap. All right, so let's take a look here. We have our 3 podium finishers here in the green room. Let's first bring in Megan Overstreet. She finishes 3rd tonight in Spec Racer Ford.
Megan Overstreet, thank you so much for joining us. How was the race?
Oh, that was wild. We were battling so hard every lap. It was a blast.
Yeah, that was definitely a blast from our perspective. My heart is still beating out of my chest right now, and you're involved in that fantastic fight there all throughout that. Just talk us through that fight, because from our perspective here in the commentary booth, it was awesome. I'm sure from the driver's point of view, it was awesome too.
Oh, it was. So my basic strategy was, please don't kill somebody when we're racing this close, because you never know with netcode what it's going to do on you in iRacing. But man, we were doing really, really good there.
I think Please Don't Kill Anyone Else is a good motto to live life by Megan Overstreet. Thank you so much for joining us. Anyone you'd like to give thanks to?
Yeah, thanks for doing the broadcast. Y'all do a fantastic job. Everybody that was in the race and who puts everything on, and Stevie for doing the league. and my parents for watching. Thank y'all.
All right, everybody, there you go. Megan Overstreet finishing third tonight in Spec Racer Ford. Let's now move over to our second place finisher. Second time we've talked to him this evening. It's Caleb Patry driving the number 198 machine, finishing second in Spec Racer Ford.
Caleb, thank you for joining us in the comms box once again. How's that Spec Racer Ford race?
Well, that was probably the most fun that I've had in a Spec Racer in ever. Yeah, it was a good tight race between, there was like 5 or 6 of us there for a while, and nobody could shake each other in the draft. The draft is just so strong on these cars. You could get the worst exit in the world coming out of the front straight and still blast by him going into turn 1, but it made for some awesome clean racing. I really could not have asked for anything better.
I feel like I've probably said the word awesome many times throughout this broadcast, but that was honestly just an awesome race. That was fantastic from start to finish, and you're involved in that great battle. Talk us through that battle, because that was fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it was a 5 or 6 way battle. I think there were 5 or 6 cars, and it was pretty much anybody's game every time we hit the straightaway. And so we all just kind of, I think we were all in agreement to just race each other wherever possible instead of working together for fun. And yeah, I don't really know what else to say about it.
Well, usually sometimes it's said that teamwork makes a dream work, but when it came to that battle, it was really just a mutiny there. Caleb, thank you so much for joining us. Anyone you'd like to give thanks to?
Well, I guess again, Steve Ray and everybody who puts these races on. And my fellow racers for racing me clean, racing me hard, and racing me clean.
Yeah, that was definitely clean, but that was still very hard racing there. Caleb, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
All right, everybody, there you go. Finishing second tonight, Caleb Patry. And tonight's winner, coming off a very successful week at Virginia International Raceway, let's bring in Morgan Burkhardt.
Morgan, thank you so much for joining us. You're involved in that fantastic fight. How's the race?
It was pretty good. I enjoyed it. Caleb and I kind of made an agreement to just go at it from the start, not really worry too much about anybody who kind of came along with us. But yeah, we just kind of dropped the hammer and go for it. The draft was really powerful. So you can really just ramp up onto people. It didn't matter how good of a run you got out of the final corner. If you were within half a second, you were going to be head and shoulders past the guy in front of you.
Yeah, the gloves were off there for sure, and you mentioned the draft, and obviously the most important part of that is the exit coming out of the final corner. Was that really just the most important corner on this entire track tonight?
Yeah, usually I would say coming out of the carousel, turn 6 would be the most important corner, but since the car, it pushes a lot through there, you have to lift, so it doesn't make it as long of a straight as in some lower powered cars, but definitely the final corner was the most important, because if you got a good run, you could pass like 4 people down the front straight, and if you got a poor run, you can still pass at least 1 person down the front straight.
Well, the slipstream was absolutely ridiculous, and that battle just all throughout the 6 cars just covered by a blanket was ridiculous to see as well. Morgan, thank you so much for joining us. Anyone you'd like to give thanks to?
I'd definitely like to thank my parents for supporting me, especially last week, as Greg mentioned. It was everybody who came out and volunteered at the event. Everybody who was supporting me. It was pretty surreal to have just walk everywhere and everybody say hi and congratulations. It was pretty cool, and I want to thank everybody who showed up.
Morgan, I'll have to give my congrats as well. It's great to see where you are in the racing world. Morgan, thank you so much for joining us here tonight as well.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, there you go. Morgan Burkhardt, your winner tonight in Spec Racer Ford. So I think we already let the cat out of the bag a little while ago, but let's get things wrapped up here, Ron. Next week, Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time, we're going to have our Spec Racer Fords. We're going to have our Spec Miatas take to the track 2 miles of WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. May have been repaved in real life, but not so much in iRacing. It's still sandy, it's still low grip, and it's still lots of fun to watch people try to take the corkscrew. So make sure to join us. And, if you like what you see, if you like what you hear, please remember, go ahead, smash that thumbs up button. And if you haven't already subscribed to Apex Racing TV, please go ahead and do so now. And you won't be sorry. We've got great virtual racing action literally around the clock from all over the world. All right, so for Ron Munns, for Josh Wilkie, I'm Greg Ginsburg. We'll see you next week, next Tuesday night, 9 p.m. from Laguna Seca. Have a wonderful week, everybody.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.